that's kind of what alimony is, right? It's like it's trying to keep up with a certain lifestyle that your wife was used to.
Yes, but by the way, that law was passed by lower risk takers, women.
Yeah.
Men did not pass the alimony laws in America.
Not likely.
No man was ever like, I'm going to the Senate. And if it was a man, it was a low testosterone, high estrogen dude. Okay, what I listen to keywords. So for example, a low risk taker will talk to you about failure a lot. Like, oh yeah, man, I was working with this other team and marketing guys, they weren't that good, or oh, my business partner ripped you off. High risk tolerance people are like, oh, that's part of the game. So it's not their first. So you look for fear-based people. Almost always fear-based people are going to be low risk takers.
It also is the reason why I find myself taking action rather than not taking action, right?
Yes.
So there's got to be a balance.
Where you got the men in action?
Yeah, men of action was because I watched too many people teaching theory in self-help and not really, having any action for them to take.
Perfect example from immigrants would be Elon Musk. He came to America, he sold his first company for $30 million. I don't know if you know this story. One of the first things he did was buy a $2 million Ferrari, which he crashed going super fast, risk-taking, in the first 2 weeks or whatever.
The McLaren he bought later.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Like, but then he took all 30 million, put it into PayPal. That's risky. You just made 30 million, now you go to your bank, and strippers are gonna be higher risk takers.
Yes.
They're women that are willing to let strange men get close to them, touch them when they're drunk.
By the way, being a hater, especially anonymously on the internet, is one of the lowest risk things that you can do, period.
Yes.
So you can try to create an effect, but it requires no risk on your part, because you're anonymous. What's going on, guys? We're here in Las Vegas. I've got the man, Tai Lopez, here with me. All right, the reason why I wanted to have Tai on here today and walk around here in Las Vegas is, number one, Tai is the first guy to get me to start a book club. If you guys check out the Men of Action reading list, you're gonna see that probably half those books are on Tai's book club, tailopez.com/books. He's the first guy to get me to start looking for mentors, and he's also the person who got me to read Satoshi Kanazawa, David Buss, and got into evolutionary psychology back in 2015. And so that kind of started me down my path to take the stuff that I understood about intersectional dynamics and then use science in order to back up some of the findings. But we had dinner at Mr. Chow's a couple nights ago, and Tai brought up something that I thought was absolutely fantastic, man. And that was the idea of rating people, as far as clients, possible clients, based on
women too, by the way.
Based on risk aversion.
Yes.
Can you go into that?
Yeah, so basically, the whole world of personality quizzes, they are missing almost the biggest element that separates humans, which is your willingness to take risk. So if I'm looking at a business client, I've got $1 million package. If I'm closing $1 million package for my sales guys, I'm like, yo, this guy can't be a low risk tolerance person. Low risk tolerance people do not spend $1 million on a mentorship, but high risk people do. Okay, I've had, believe it or not, I've had people come in, see one podcast with me, call once, book a call with me, and do $1 million deal in the same day or week. That's a high risk. Then you have ultra high risk. So, by the way, with the dating market with women, what men don't realize is one of the biggest sex differences between men and women is risk tolerance. And so, if you look at billionaires, okay, a lot of modern world will say that there's no billionaire women who made their own money, or there's very few.
Yeah, like Sheryl Sandberg would be one.
Sheryl Sandberg,
not a ton. J.K. Rowling.
J.K. Rowling. But if you look at the Forbes list, it's predominantly men.
Yeah.
Now you could explain that in one of two ways. One can be that the world's sexist, okay? Which there's some of that. But second, you could say to become a billionaire, you need to be in the ultra, mega, hyper quantum risk tolerance level. And women are built with higher estrogen. The average, I've tested, if a woman gets a estrogen, it's called estradiol, while she's pregnant, her estradiol goes to 1,000. Mine's 20. So a woman will change her estrogen during pregnancy 50x a man. Now, what does estradiol do? One of the things, it makes you less risk tolerant, because if you're carrying a baby, women who jumped around and went rock climbing they didn't pass on their genes. So women who became very risk averse had more children. So we're all the offspring of women in general that were generally risk averse and men that were risk takers. So when it comes to the business market, I'm trying to figure out in the first 5 minutes of a call, okay, what I listen to keywords. So for example, a low risk taker will talk to you about failure a lot. Like, oh yeah, man, I was working with this other team and marketing guys, they weren't that good, or oh, my business partner ripped you off. High risk tolerance people are like, oh, that's part of the game. So it's not their first. So you look for fear-based people. Almost always fear-based people are going to be low risk takers. I ask people, now by the way, we did this at that dinner we were at. Women who are high risk takers.
Hey, hold on, we're filming a video while crossing the street in Las Vegas.
I know. I'm
talking about high risk takers.
No, high risk takers. Women, they call it borderline personality disorder. One of the BPD symptoms for women are
promiscuity and
crazy risk.
Crazy risk, yeah.
You go out on a date with a girl, if you're looking for a girl to...
This is a risk-taking video. Do you see this right here? This is real. This is real.
Boy, they're treacherous here.
Yeah. But they'd be a real risk taker to hit people and even go to jail. But women who have BPD, you can just ask a woman on a date. You go, hey, what's the craziest thing you've ever done? So that, by the way, this is something you gotta be careful. If a woman will fly, you meet her on Instagram, and she'll fly from Germany to visit you in Vegas, you might have BPD on your hands.
Yeah.
So sometimes you don't want, and in general, there's a lot of craziness, lack of emotional stability. Now, men have high psychopathy. There's a thing called the Levinson psychopathy test. I've tested like 800,000 people myself, and 12types.com is a company that I built with input from guys like Dr. Buss. And, men, it's crazy how much higher they score on Levinson psychopathy. So in general, if you're dealing with men, you have a much better chance that they're high risk takers. Now, if you want to take it like even deeper, you can go by country. By the way, does this end up?
No, it's perfect.
It's turning
it's perfect,
it there.
yeah.
It's just that. Wow, that's what's smart about it. So America, that's what I tell people. People are like, oh, I'm from Mexico. What should I, what should I sell? I'm like, sell to America.
Yeah.
Because America, there's a good book called the Hyper, I'll remember in a second. Hypomanic Edge, the Hypomanic Edge. So hypomanic people are extreme optimists. They're like bipolar without the down. So they just stay high. And America is the largest population of hypomanics. And hypomanics, perfect example for immigrants would be Elon Musk. He came to America, he sold his first company for $30 million. I don't know if you know this story. One of the first things he did was buy a $2 million Ferrari, which he crashed going super fast, risk-taking, in the first 2 weeks or whatever.
The McLaren he bought later.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Like, but then he took all $30 million, put it into PayPal. That's risky. You just made $30 million, now you go to your bank, and after PayPal, he sold for about $130 million after tax.
And then he put all that into...
I went to a fireside chat with him in 2011 or something, and I remember him saying, after making $150 million, or 130, within 2 years, I had to borrow rent money for my $2,000 Malibu apartment and Porsche. So imagine having $130 million in your bank account and going, I'm putting it all into Tesla and SpaceX, even though it almost went bankrupt like 8 times.
Yeah, there were a couple of launches where he said he would have gone bankrupt had the launch not worked.
If you study, there's a biography of Napoleon Bonaparte, who's the first trillionaire in modern history. Genghis Khan is the first trillionaire. If you ask ChatGPT, it estimates his net worth at 100 trillion. But if we look just at the modern world, by the 1800s, Napoleon Bonaparte was worth 1 to 2 trillion because he controlled Europe. And anyway, he lost his battle called Waterloo. They call that your Waterloo event when you fail. And the English defeated him. And he was put on a boat in exile to an island off Africa. Basically a death sentence without killing him. They didn't want to martyr him. When they sent him, he had no money on the boat. So, we can go this way. He was betting, they gave him like the equivalent of $1 to start. And every day they play like a type of poker. I think it was Whisk or something. Anyway, he built it in this biography. I'm reading it. He had $300,000 and he bet it all on one hand. So when you look at trillionaire Napoleon Bonaparte, you look at Elon Musk, these are insane risks. So those are rare to find.
There are probably some risk takers though that are like that. You know, they say fortune favors the bold.
Yes.
But I think fortune favors the bold that are lucky, right? That
Yes.
when the risk pays off. Like
Yeah.
when Bilzerian talks about his hair falling out because he did a 50-50 bet for $5 million when he wasn't
Right.
that rich.
Yes.
And he was like, yeah, he went into like, he said he was
the fight or flight mode.
yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people can't deal with that level of
No.
risk. And then I think about like the successful people I know, I think it's like there's a controlled level of risk.
Yes.
Like there's risk, but it's calculated.
Yes.
I joined the military after 9/11, jumped out of airplanes,
Yeah.
did stuff like that. But I will tell you, like, it wasn't just crazy kamikaze risk.
Yes.
I lost a lot of money during the crash of 2020
Yeah.
because I had risked so much money. But it also is the reason why I find myself taking action rather than not taking action, right?
Yes.
So there's got to
Is
be a
that where
balance.
you got the men in action?
Yeah, Men of Action was
Yeah.
because I watched too many people teaching theory in self-help and not really, having any action for them to take.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, if you look at like the word manifest, right? If you look at the word law of attraction, you break down the word attraction, it's like attract, that's the mind. Action, that's the physical. So you really, the best person, the law of attraction for wealth or anything you want in life is like simultaneous. That's my word. I see people go, hey man, should I like read a book, a lot build a business? I'm like, read a book on how to start a business at the same day you're launching the business.
Yeah.
Like simultaneous
Exactly.
action. Simultaneous, because if you do, I will tell you, I disagree. There's some people that used to be like, oh, Ty, why would you read? Just take action. I'm like, hey, you can lose a lot of money that way. A good example is playing poker. Last night I was playing poker at the tables with my brother in the Bellagio, and it's like, what do we do? Easy. Number one, you play, sit down at the table, you play, and then you take a 5-minute break and go look on your phone at all the odds. It's like, so that's me literally doing book learning while I'm taking action.
Well, you think about, Elon Musk was getting a PhD in material physics, material sciences, and then like taught himself rocket science. It wasn't just
Yes.
taking risks blindly. Like he
Yeah.
actually studied. And so I think a combination of risk taking along with subject matter expertise
Yes.
is probably the way you actually do become hyper successful.
And one thing I did a talk with Ryan Pineda the other day, or today earlier, and I was talking about you got to know your own genetics, because I do think you can't just look at Napoleon or Elon and go, well, I want to be the richest man in the world, so I'll just increase my risk tolerance. I think some of it can be manipulated, but a lot of it is genetic. So for example, if you're a low to medium risk taker, but you like money and nice things, I got the solution. The best get rich quick scheme for those low to mid risk takers, figure out how to make $50,000 to $100,000 with an online business, move to Philippines, Brazil, or Thailand. And all of a sudden, you don't have to take much risk. It's very easy to build a $50,000 to $100,000 online business. I mean, you need 2 clients with a marketing agency. You need, a little marketing info product.
Yeah.
And then you lower the need to make any more, but you still live, if you make 100K and you live in Brazil, it's 8X. Philippines is 10X. So you can be a millionaire with taking minimum risk. So worst person I see is a guy who's a low risk taker by genetics and by conscious and unconscious mind. Number 2, they want a lot of money. They're greedy. They're not easy. They're ambitious with money. And 3, they want to live in New York, Miami, or LA. I'm like, dude, you're the worst. That's the worst. That's how I would curse my enemies. May you be born with low risk tolerance, but high greed factor, you want money, and you're not willing to live in a low risk place like Brazil.
Yeah.
Although Brazil has other risks.
Yeah, they're different risks. I mean, I live here in part because there's no state income tax, and the cost of living here is cheaper than California. Even though I do a lot of business in California, this is kind of the best of both worlds.
Now, Vegas, by the way, attracts
high risk.
biggest high risk people. If you go to the right tables, I need to start doing my psychology tests around the high risk tables where people are dropping $1 million, $5 million. What's the biggest bet you think ever in Vegas?
Oh, I have no idea. I'd have to. We probably looked that up on Perplexity, but you know the thing is, UNLV did some studies where they looked at
bet ever in Vegas.
UNLV did some studies where they looked at men's testosterone serum when beautiful women were around,
Yes.
and how the bets that they were making
Yes.
kept increasing,
Yes.
and how their testosterone levels went up because attractive women were around. Same thing when they were around sports cars.
Yes.
So it's like the things go, like the high levels of testosterone go hand in hand
Yes.
with the risk taking.
Yes.
And then when you think about it from an evolutionary standpoint, if 40% of men have bred throughout history and 80%
Yes.
of women, that means that bottom 60%, in order for them to just breed, to not die a virgin, they were going to need to take some level
Yes.
of risk to go kill the gazelle
Yes.
or kill the whatever predator was there to feed the tribe, so that they had the chance to have a wife.
Yeah.
One of the things I love when I read Dr. Buss's books is he talks about interviewing these traditional tribes
Yes.
that are in South America, the Yamamoto tribe. And they said, why did you guys go to war? And they said, every one of them answered the same way. They said, I went to war to get a wife.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
then they
Women
would
don't respect a man if you ain't killed a motherfucker.
They said, I went to war to get a wife. And then they would explain, well, why do Americans go to war? They said, well, we go to war for our country. And the Yamamoto were like laughing.
Yeah.
They're like, what do you mean? They're like, no, we go to war to get a woman.
Yes.
That's why we go to war.
Yeah. But believe it or not, that status game, men are still playing that status game in the sense that, why do men join the military? Sometimes they say, conscious mind says, I want to serve my country, which there's truth to it. I'm not calling people liar at all, but there's unconscious motivations happening too. One of those, it's funny. I was talking to this girl who's a Mormon here in Vegas, and she was saying her husband grew up Mormon and wanted to break off. He didn't want to go to the missionary church. He went to the military to show his family that he's a rebel.
Yeah.
And we know rebel, especially as 18 to 22-year-old, rebel guys do way better with women.
Yeah.
Women like the bad boy in high school. And we think we make fun of women for that, but they're built for that because the high risk taker is the Yanomamo Indian who's going to kill somebody. So women are still built with that tribal brain, and so are men.
It was something like, if you were 40 years old and you lived in one of these tribes, there was like a high likelihood you had at least committed 2 homicides.
Yes.
Some crazy number like that. It was homicide was so normal in some of these ancestral tribes.
And by the way, Dr. Helen Fisher she's a specialist PhD in evolutionary biology, but anthropology, but also she's an expert on the hormonal profiles. She told me, Tai, who is the highest testosterone men in the world? Brazilian rainforest, because they came from Asia on a land bridge. They moved across, and it was the ones not satisfied. So they're like, we don't the Alaska place. They moved down to North America. So the highest risk takers, those Yanomamo, are also crazy high testosterone. In the modern world, we've been putting all those dudes in prison for a couple hundred years, and therefore none of them are left to breed. Strippers are going to be higher risk takers.
Yes.
They're women that are willing to let strange men get close to them, touch them when they're drunk.
I'll bet you if they did a survey, they're also higher testosterone.
Yes.
And when you think about the physical nature.
Or borderline, BPD is very common. So that BPD is kind of like, I don't know that it's ever been studied to be directly related to testosterone, but for sure, a woman with higher testosterone. I mean, they did this experiment. This dude was a bodybuilder, said he wanted to understand his wife more.
Yeah.
So he shot himself up with a lot of estrogen shots for a couple months. And he said, I was walking past the TV and like a commercial came on of like a puppy.
Yeah.
And he said, I started crying.
He didn't
And
even
he goes, I'm crying and I don't even know why. So he went to his wife, he goes, do you ever cry but not know why? And she's like, all the time. And whenever I do big seminars, I ask the audience, man, raise your hand if you remember crying but you don't know the reason. Not that your grandma didn't die. Men, 1 out of 100. You ask women, have you ever cried but you don't know why? 80% of women raise their hand. The other 20% are lying. Women are, and so anyway, a lot of this is just a combination of your hormonal genetics. I think some of it, all the food we're eating now, people are having, I mean, they say microplastics. I read a Harvard report. Harvard says that they're finding microplastics in men's hearts, testicles, everywhere, and they're like, I was, Nassim Taleb.
Yeah.
He wrote the Black Swan book and a couple books on anti-fragile. So he's like a PhD world expert on risk, by the way.
Yeah.
And I was listening to a podcast the other day, him and Tim Ferriss. He said something interesting, and it was basically that humans don't know how to calculate risk.
Yes.
At all.
Yeah, Dr. Buss talks about this too. Humans can see iterations of things,
yes.
But when you say there's an 80% chance of rain and it doesn't rain the next day, you're not wrong. It's just the 20% manifested, and most people can't comprehend that concept.
Yeah, statistic. And Nassim, what he was saying was, he said, for example, he only fears risks that are contagious. I thought that was interesting. So he was like, for example, there's a better chance. So if this is why I think he's not anti-handguns, because he's like, if somebody accidentally shoots their friend with their pistol at home in America, that doesn't increase the odds that the person across the street with a gun does the same thing. It's not contagious. Whereas certain things spread. So I just thought that was
Remember the Tide Pods? All those kids eating those Tide Pods? That would be a bad risk that was spreading.
Yes. Yeah, and by the way, I will tell you, for guys watching, don't forget to count the risk of not doing stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why Charlie Munger says, in his entire life, the concept that's confused even his smartest friends. And some people say Charlie Munger is the smartest businessman of our time, smarter than Bill Gates. Bill Gates is on his board. He says, opportunity, risk, or cost fools even the most genius people because we don't see what our life could have been like. That's why I read a book. It said, if you want to incentivize a sales guy who works for you, do not say, if you reach this goal of $50,000 a month in sales, I'll give you a Ferrari to drive. He said, give them the Ferrari and then tell them if you don't hit 50K, I'll take it away. That motivates, because once a dude starts driving the Ferrari, they call it the hedonic treadmill. Now he's desensitized to it and he never would want to go back to his Toyota Camry. But when he's driving his Toyota Camry, he can't think of the opportunity risk, how much cooler his life would be if he had a Ferrari. So in general, with humans, you have to actually give it to them and then threaten to take away. Threaten to take away. I saw a podcast, I don't know if you've seen this one going viral. It's crazy. A woman breaks up with, it's like one of these Miami podcasts. It's not one that me and you know, but this guy breaks up with a girl and she goes, well, he broke up with me, but I wanted him to keep giving me $20,000 a month. And it was a whole debate where the women in the podcast were trying to say, no, here's her rationale. He set me up for a lifestyle like that. If we're gonna break up, he's gotta at least keep it going for a year because he's the one who got me used to it.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, bro, if I ain't sleeping with you, I ain't wiring you $20K a month.
I mean, that's kind of what alimony is, right? It's like it's trying to keep up with a certain lifestyle that your wife was used to.
Yes, but by the way, that law was passed by lower risk takers, women.
Yeah.
Men did not pass the alimony laws in America.
Not likely.
No man was ever like, I'm going to the Senate. And if it was a man, it was a low testosterone, high estrogen dude.
One other thing I want to say is Jeff Bezos talks about this. Anticipation of regret.
Yes.
It's one of the things he talks about is anticipating when you're 80 years old.
Yes.
What are you going to look back and say, man, I wish I had done this.
Yes.
I wish I had not missed out on this opportunity. And you just find, like, man, when you take a little bit more risk, especially like when you think about irrational risk, like going up and talking to a beautiful woman, that's an irrational risk. The tribal leader isn't going to kill you.
Yes.
That's not going to happen anymore.
But you still fear it.
You still have the fear.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many risks that fears that we have. And then how about the fears, the irrational fears we don't have and the risks we take without even thinking about it? Driving a car while texting.
Yes.
eating massive numbers of French fries, trans
Yes,
fats.
not walking.
Yeah.
Average American walks 2,000 steps a day.
Yeah.
Men, there's a guy named Daniel Lieberman from Harvard. He's a paleoanthropologist.
Yes.
So he studies the structure of our
Yes,
skeleton.
the story of the human body.
Yeah. Men are supposed to walk 15,000 steps a day.
Yeah.
Women 12,000. Average American's doing 3. So all of these, and we're not afraid of it. The average
We're
person
not
doesn't
afraid
wake
of
up
the
in
fat that we're putting on.
Yeah.
We're not afraid of it.
That same dude will be petrified to start a business or walk up to a girl he finds beautiful, even though the logical risk is 0. In the history of mankind, walking up to a pretty girl and saying, "Hey, how are you?" has never had
Fewer repercussions.
What could the repercussion be if you
Yeah.
did it nicely? Even if the girl has a husband who's jealous, you just say, "Oh, just saying hello." I say hello to everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but at the same time, I know a lot of guys. It's kind of what I think about haters. I shot a little short the other day. Somebody found a petition from 2014 to take down my TEDx talk. And it was just a hater guy. So he started a petition on change.org called "Get Rid of Tai." They're like, "I hate Tai Lopez. I don't believe in his ideas." 14 people have voted on it.
Signed it.
But I read, it was hilarious. Like, he's like, this guy's, it was so creatively written that I was thinking, this hater for sure is $1 million a year in his pocket level copywriter.
Yeah.
I'm like, why is this guy wasting his time on starting a petition that has no upside? If 1 million people voted it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
When he could take that copywriting, he could even sell other people's products. He could go to someone, "Hey, can I be there's affiliate networks. You go on an affiliate network, they do the product, you just write a bad ad." This was the best writer I've ever seen, and I laughed at his petition, but I was like, there's an example of a dude who doesn't calculate what he's missing out on. So
Yeah.
he focuses on something he can't change.
And it doesn't, by the way, being a hater, especially anonymously on the internet, is one of the lowest risk things that you can do, period.
Yes.
So you can like try to create an effect, but it requires no risk on your part because you're anonymous.
And like you said earlier, I do think you can go too crazy with risk.
Yeah.
I think, look, everything in life, my personal brand has always been around the 4 pillars of the good life. Balance, health, wealth, love, happiness. All right, we're back to this guy.
Yeah.
What kind of risk tolerance does this dude have? Okay, let's read some people. All right, let's see. Let's see this woman right here. These women are extreme extroverts. They're smiling. This guy, high likelihood of mental illness. That's what I would say. No, in general, men who actors have high levels of mental illness. That's why, for most of history, actors were considered scum of the earth. Now, recently, they're heroes. But if you can be somebody else, you generally have something wrong. Or the human brain wasn't built to do that.
Yeah.
All right, let's guess these women. Here, can you point at them?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Or just reverse it? No, let's just walk by them.
Hold on.
These women are an example. They got their ass out. This would be an example of high-risk taking women. Very few women, if you look at a spectrum of females, and it's called voyeurism, is the actual type of narcissism. There's 7 types of narcissism. Okay, one of them is exhibitionism/voyeurism. So women who like men to be a voyeur looking at them, exhibitionist means you like to show off your body. They're generally also higher on mental illness. So not judging those women, but if you put 10,000 women in a room who are not walking around with a thong in Vegas versus the 10,000 of these women, you'd see, I'd say 40x likelihood of mental illness.
Well, what you're going to see is also like a lot of the women who do that thing where they take the photos.
Yes.
They've been assaulted out here. Like crazy stuff has happened.
But they're
to
high
them.
risk takers.
Exactly. That's exactly my point.
By the way, so on that cycle, I'm a big fan. This is my favorite thing to focus on is psychology profile. So those women I would categorize, without meeting them, my guesstimate, could be wrong, would be high on exhibitionism, narcissism, high on risk taking, but here's the interesting one. high on greed. So strippers, when I started testing strippers, I had a lot of strippers follow my social. I have no idea. I don't even go to strip clubs. I never was a big fan. But I started testing them. I'm like, these women are all high on what's called greed avoidance. Low on greed avoidance, which means they're greedy. Now, that's very common sense. How you doing?
Yes, sir. Got there.
So, greed avoidance, it makes sense. You're high on risk. You're probably maybe you have borderline personality disorder. You're high on exhibitionism, showing your body sexually, and you love money. That's the only woman that'll work at a strip club for the most part, or walk around in Vegas with dudes. Guys are drunk. One thing I tell all guys, you should go deep down the rabbit. If you could go down any 2 rabbit holes in your life, there's a lot of good choices. Learn how to grow your own food, learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. How you doing, man? Yeah, what's your name?
Joseph, how are you, man? I just started my own business.
Hi.
I'm trying to get like you, my friend.
Nice to meet you.
Yes, sir.
Good luck with the business. What kind of business?
Exactly. Party rentals.
Party rental.
Yes, sir.
In Vegas?
No, Arizona.
Okay. That's a good business.
Yes, sir.
You can make your first meal with that.
Thank you, brother. Have a good
Call me when you get there.
I will.
Yeah. By the way, the word entrepreneur means in French, the one who takes risk. So that guy, I don't know who he is, but he's taking a risk. Anyway, I was going back, the rabbit holes you as a man can go down in studying and perfecting. A lot of them. You could do lifting weights, you could do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to learn to defend yourself, you could learn weapons, you could learn self-control, meditation. I'm gonna tell you the 2 that I would start with if I was a man. If you were my brother or my son, these are the 2. Money, because in the modern world, money is life. Literally. And number 2, reading people. If you master those 2, by the way, that includes reading yourself. Many people have misread their own personality type. But reading people, if you master those 2, you are in the elite level of, especially a man, forever. Even if you got a little bit of a pot belly. I suggest you get a 6-pack, but I'm saying the men who rule the world are good at those. If some people don't believe me, so I started researching it because I have this hypothesis. Okay, what did Mark Zuckerberg go to Harvard? He dropped out, but what did he study? Psychology. What was Steve Jobs? A psychologist. First $1 trillion company? Steve Jobs, Apple. First person to ever make $100 billion under age 37? Mark Zuckerberg. When you think about Elon Musk, this man's a psychologist. What is he first? Of course he's an engineer, but there's lots of, BMW had 5,000 engineers. He beat them because he knew how to make a pretty car that would appeal to the eye. He knew how to set like you walk into a tier, he made it a little bit like a spaceship because he knows his audience. Men love spaceships, they like Star Wars. So go deep down the rabbit hole. It'll help you also with sex, love, and dating. Because women, even though, and this is we were talking about red pill and some of this stuff. There's things I agree with in that community. Okay, I'm more of the mindset of I don't look for shit that I disagree with. I try to find something they know that I don't. So there's a lot of stuff. But the main thing that people go wrong with women on some of the online dating movements is there's something called, I'll give you the simple phrase for it, and I can give you the scientific one, but nature spits out differences on purpose, okay? It's to balance out the system. So there's about half the people you meet in this world will be extroverts, half are introverts. About 10% of people have the leader gene. They always have been leaders since they were 5 years old.
Genetic divergence, yeah. So to make the population more robust,
yes,
in case there's some kind of pandemic or something like that, yeah.
Or ESS is the Evolutionary Stable System. Yeah. People into
Where's the endo weed? I got 5 on it.
weed are almost always people high in anxiety.
That chocolate pie.
I have moderate anxiety. I've smoked weed. I don't feel better.
Yeah.
And my friend Dr. Fresco, he low anxiety guy. Me and him smoke. We're like, what's the big deal? So by the way, you can also assess people's personality by what drug they like. Alcohol. Introverts like alcohol because it allows them to talk to people at a club. But weed is for anxious people, by the way. Now,
when I drink, like I'm extroverted. When I drink, I don't feel like talking to people more. I don't feel anything positive.
Yeah, you don't get the positives.
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, I go to Sweden, the men there are so shy that they have to drink to go talk to women.
Huh.
But yeah, it's actually, what we're doing is a good exercise. Walk and try to read people's personality. You can start to look at people's hands, digit index ratio. There's, out of 100 studies in the last 100 years, like 80 of them say that digit index ratio is actually scientifically valid. You can see the Wikipedia and read through it all.
That has to do with testosterone in vitro causing your ring finger to become longer than in utero, longer than your sorry, I meant to say in utero. Than your index finger.
Yeah, it's not how much your current blood, although it would be somewhat correlated. But anyway, those are things I look at. Where you go on a date with a girl, look at that hand, boy. Look at that hand. I'm looking.
She has big, giant hands.
No, I'm looking for that's another issue.
She's got some veiny hands, bro. What's going on? I met a girl in West Hollywood. She must be high in extroversion. She has some big, massive hands and an Adam's apple, big old forehead because of her extroversion and her risk taking. She took some risks. She cut her off. That was a lot of risks she took there. Anyway, so the other thing I want to ask you about, and we can still talk about risk-taking, is I think the biggest change, since you and I have met each other, I think the biggest change to this landscape in total is these AI models. These artificial intelligence models are empowering people to a level, and so few people recognize it, and it's crazy to me how many people are afraid of it. There's a new, yesterday, or 2 days ago, a new deep research feature came out on...
By the way, reading people. If you meet a woman at a nightclub, especially if she goes a lot, you're meeting a higher aggression woman almost always. So for those of you looking for the right social mate, make sure you go where the personality type's called thick and thin markets. In economics, thick markets are abundant. So if you're looking for long-term dating, a nightclub like Dre's would be considered a thin market.
Yes, a thin market.
And by the way, a lot of guys go, oh, I got a filter system. I know how to find the needle in a haystack. I'm like, bro, I have a farm. If I put a needle in one of my haystacks, you'll never, I'll give you all my money. I have a barn full of hay. If I drop a needle in it, and you can't have a metal detector, you'll be 93 still trying to separate all the hay there. So knowing how to read people, I was at that dinner, a guy was like, hey, how do you read people? Some of it is just knowing what physical location they're. Women who move to Vegas are going to be way big risk takers.
Yes.
They move from home alone. They go to a big city that has nightlife. That's your high risk taking women. High extroversion, high voyeurism, higher levels of BPD.
So they're all the same thing. They're like they like take videos of people. It's I guess it's their business model. All right, we can cross over here and go back to Caesars. Okay, so again, the biggest change I've seen is this change to AI models. The deep research feature that just came out on Perplexity, I used it for a couple of queries and quickly came to the realization that the majority of the population right now doesn't use these AI models to begin with and has no concept of how to use this deep research. And the advantage that it gives me, like when we were sitting there with your family, I found out all your family members' names.
Oh yeah,
the deep research thing. I found everything. I found out your mother used to be a coach and then she was an anarchist because of what's on there. It's unbelievable.
I found out stuff about I was in Finland and I was on a drive for 2 hours and I just flipped on, you can talk to it in talk mode. And I was like, tell me something about my grandpa that I don't know.
Holy
and it's
crap.
like, oh, Martin D. Birkenrode was published in Nature in 1973.
He's a professor at Yale, right?
Yeah, and it was a Nobel Prize winner, and him posted on the cosmogony of the asteroid belt between, I think, Jupiter or Mercury or something. Anyway, no one in my family knows.
That's crazy.
My grandma was married to him for 40 years. I'm like, grandma never told me. So you probably find stuff you don't want to know about yourself.
Yeah, that's interesting you said. My grandfather was a professor at Southern Methodist, and I think I'm going to do that tonight. I'm going to see what I can
Just
find
be
out.
like, what's something, give him the full name of your grandpa. Be like, what's something that I probably don't know about it.
Can we go down this way?
These deep query, deep
Talking about
search-
risk taking, I've never been here. I've lived here for 13 years, and
we
where
go.
we are right now, we're coming up on Absinthe, but I've never taken this stairway. Look how dark and creepy this. I've never seen this before.
We got Big Rome here.
Yeah.
I think that, like, with AI, Will Durant said something. Will Durant said something that in every generation, wealth concentrates whenever there's new technology because most people are risk averse.
Yes.
And they won't try AI until at least 50% of their friends are already on it. But those friends won't go on till the other. There's a great book on this. It's a very famous business book called Crossing the Chasm. And Crossing the Chasm is all about how any new product, let's take the iPhone, the average person, so like 1% of the population is what they call pioneers. Steve Jobs came up with the iPhone. Then the second is what they call early adopters. So these are people that didn't invent the iPhone, but they used it they weren't afraid to buy one.
Yeah.
Then the third, then you get a chasm. And most businesses die here. And the chasm, this kind of chasm, on the other side are what they call pragmatists. And pragmatists go, well, I'm not buying an iPhone till like 10 of my friends have one and I can see that like it. This is why the innovation cycle is like 15 years. I've found there's a new trend, I'll give you a perfect example. AI, people are gonna be using it in 2031.
Yeah.
ChatGPT started in, let's say, 2016. 15 years it'll be till the average person is using it.
Yeah.
So between now, you got 5 years. If you can go deep down the AI route, you can own the world. You'll be the first trillionaire out of it.
Listen, I'm going to give everybody a piece of action that you should do today, right? Some of you guys listen to audiobooks or you're in the gym or whatever. I'm in the gym and I have a conversation with ChatGPT or I have a conversation with Perplexity for somewhere between 20 minutes to an hour every single day because I'm training myself how to prompt the AI models.
Yes.
The divide between the educated, the wealthy, the decision makers, and the poor scarcity people, the sheep, is going to be your ability to prompt artificial intelligence to do your bidding. That's going to be the difference. And that's not going away. It's only going in one direction. This deep research function is huge, and there's going to be more that are coming as soon as, Apple, who's light years behind right now.
Yes.
Siri is light years behind.
Siri is like
it's
what the fuck, mainframe.
It's garbage.
Like tube computers.
So that's 50s. The thing. So Siri is like, but once these phones start integrating, or maybe one of these OpenAI creates their own phone.
Yes.
When that happens, and it's fully integrated with these AI models,
or
that's the end.
A chip in your own head.
That's the end. Well, that's the next iteration.
Cyborgs, humans becoming cyborgs is probably the ultimate game. And by the way, humans already are kind of cyborgs. For example, the average person, if they leave their phone somewhere, they feel as if they lost a limb.
Yeah.
People walk away and go, I'm missing something. I don't know what it is. Just like if you were missing a hand. And so, I forget the word for that. It's kind of a fear of losing something.
Yeah.
We have that. Okay, speaking of ChatGPT, what's the feeling of losing something that humans have? Like now we're getting it with phones. If we forget our phone, it's almost like we lost an appendage.
Okay, do you guys see how Tai asked a regular question? I've heard, I ask questions to ChatGPT and the question's 3 minutes long. And ChatGPT can understand and gives you a detailed answer. And then you can go back and say, hey, I want this formatted in a way where I can post it in a YouTube description.
Yes.
And I want you to double the length of it. And it does it instantly.
Phantom loss is the name of
it. Phantom limb and phantom law.
You can go to ChatGPT now. Let's say you want to start a marketing agency. I've been teaching people how to, your first, simplest way to go from 100K to $1 million a year revenue is with a marketing agency. People go, well, who do I send a message to? How do I get clients? I'm like, go to ChatGPT, say, I want to start a marketing company from scratch. I'm here in Las Vegas now. I want to have cosmetic surgeons as my first clients. I'm going to open cosmetic surgery marketing. Let's pretend I'm a beginner, but this is for my students. And give me 20 doctor's offices with their email address and compose a unique message that I just cut and paste for these 20. so that in the next 20 minutes I can email 20 business owners with at least a 5% probability of, or 10% probability of getting a client from it. So that'd be 2 clients.
Again, guys, that was a 90-second prompt for ChatGPT. He was talking in his regular voice to the ChatGPT voice prompt. Perplexity has the same thing. Grok does not have one yet. The Grok 3.0 actually came out today, and I'm sure they're going to have it here pretty soon. I believe Claude has one. You can also use Poe. Poe and Perplexity use all those other AI models. You can mix them in. And then also Perplexity and ChatGPT have the deep research, the OS mini function.
It's done.
Now look at that.
So it's a Reynolds plastic surgery, Smith plastic surgery, Perspective plastic surgery, Las Vegas plastic surgery, Earl plastic,
These are my
Atelier
friends.
plastic, Richard Cosmetic, Couture Dermatology, Anson, Edwards, and Higgins with their email. Here's the whole message written. Okay, and now I will tell you. So
guys, just so you know, it wrote the letter for you.
Yeah, it wrote the email.
It gives you everything. It writes the letter for you. This is $20 a month artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Like Perplexity should be paying me and ChatGPT should be paying him
I know.
at this point.
I should be. It's like some of the books I promoted. I'm like, hey, I should have been an affiliate. But the point is, I released a video earlier today. It's going viral on TikTok right out the gate. And I basically said, ChatGPT will make you 20 IQ points higher. And the single biggest thing that could change your life, a lot of guys want to be a foot taller, a lot of women want to be prettier. I'm like, forget all that. Smart dudes rule the world. So there's a very narrow window. You can tap into AI, people don't realize it. Now 20 IQ points higher is like the equivalent of 1 foot taller.
Yeah.
It's not so if you're a 5'9" guy, it's like going to 6'9". Okay, so if you're a 120 IQ and you pop to 140, you're almost a different species.
Just so you know, guys, one standard deviation, so the median or the mean is 100. One standard deviation is 85 to 115. So one standard deviation, 1 sigma is 15 IQ points.
Yes.
This is more than 15 IQ points, what you'd be getting. So if you had a 120 IQ, be 140, you'd be 2 standard deviations, more than that.
You're basically not the same human.
Yes.
The difference between a 120 IQ person and 140 is, I've been in Mensa since I was 6. I once went to a Mensa event. They used to throw these house parties. They were weird, I gotta say. I only went to 1 or 2. But there was dudes in there with like 160. Now, 160, people throw around that. I saw people saying that the guys running the new government Doge are like 170s. I doubt it. Einstein was probably 160. So anyway, I was in this trip. They played games. We sat around a table, Trivial Pursuit?
Yeah.
Where you ask questions? So I'm sitting here at the table, and everybody wanted to be on this one weird guy's side. And I'm like, I'll make my own team. They all want to be on this guy's team.
Yeah.
Well, by the end of the game, I realized why. This dude, at the end, I was like, you never lost.
Yeah.
He goes, I said, how'd you do it? He goes, I just memorized all the questions. But this was weird. When we would play the game, he would go like this. He wouldn't instantly answer. So you'd ask some vague question like, Mount Vesuvius, when it exploded, who was the vice president of Angola that year? And he would go like this. He would look up and to the left, and it took about 8 seconds. At the end of the game, I was like, he won, of course. Yeah. He goes, I file everything in my own filing system of my brain. So if he was not, to be in Mensa at the time, they've lowered it. You had to be like 140. 160 was like another human. So the simplest hack with the least effort, you could be the laziest, you gotta be a little bit action taker, is to just do exactly what Michael said. I've left a 40-minute voice memo. I couldn't sleep one time at like 3 in the morning. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna and I just started talking to it. It was at least 45, it was like a 20-minute prompt, a 15-minute, and I said, let me tell you everything about my life. Here's my age, how I look, my name, Google me, and at the end I said, give me 100 blind spots about myself that are specific to me that I'm probably not thinking of. One of them was, you have a farm with a big barn. That one, it knew which one of my, I have like 5 farms. It's like, you should check if you have insurance. That's a valuable barn. I called up the next day. That insurance had expired.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's like
that's
knowing
crazy
stuff that my insurance agent doesn't know, my CFO doesn't know.
Guys, I want you to think about this. We're talking about taking risks. Doing this requires 0 risk.
Yes.
You can try Perplexity and ChatGPT, Claude. You can try Grok for free.
You should have them all on your phone.
You should have them all on your phone, and you should be having a conversation with them. I know some people think you're insane. You should be having a conversation with them every day, because your ability to prompt them. Your ability to leverage artificial intelligence is going to be the difference between you and the other accountant, you and the other attorney, you and the other pilot, you and the other dentist, you and the other stockbroker. Your ability to leverage this, it's never been so important, and we're on the cusp. This is, guys, this is Bitcoin at $1.
Yes. This is also 1999 internet.
Yes.
Where people are, I saw an old like NBC where they go, I think this internet fad is only gonna last. No, it's a Nobel Prize winner. I think his words were, the internet will have the same impact as the fax machine. No bigger impact. Oh, imagine shooting here with Sartain, we're talking life, risk tolerance, AI, dating, reading people, reading women in thongs on Vegas Strip. A lot of interesting stuff.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, the algos, by the way, the algorithms that are, I saw Jack Dorsey, the founder of Twitter, his big thing he's talking about is that the algorithm is controlling humans, right?
Yes.
He's like, if you watch people, they're just scrolling and being controlled and programmed. Wait till AI makes TikTok, Instagram's algorithm so tell me what's going on. If I say some shit, like if I say like, oh, Lamborghini or something, I'll get a Lamborghini ad on Facebook. Yeah. They're already listening to you. So just imagine when AI kicks in, they're gonna create ads just for you in real time.
Think about this. When you got, before the election, how many people I met that were Trump supporters that said they didn't know a single person who supported Kamala, and how many Kamala supporters? Right. They're like, they didn't meet a single Trump supporter, and it was because the algorithms kept putting us in echo chambers.
Yes, it's actually a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. I had an idea for an app I started building. I wish I had it. It was a debate app, and so basically I read it, and you'd ask a question, and both sides, you could take the Republican side or the Democrat. You could take the atheist side or the Christian, the vegan or the carnivore, and then everybody gives their opinion, and then you upvote. So you end up with the smartest guys debating against each other. Because Twitter, Instagram, like Twitter, if you're more Republican or Libertarian, I'm seeing Elon Musk 19 times on my feed a day. I read that Elon has tweeted 65,000 times since he joined Twitter.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's like in 10 years, but still. By the way, that's another thing, is you're gonna be able to do social media posts with AI. So you can just take a video and soon it's gonna replicate your voice, your look, and say, give me 40 variations of this, then give me the probability of the one that'll go the most viral. By the way, there's gonna be AI wars. Yeah. It's the big thing. AI wars, America versus Russia versus China. They're gonna be trying, like hackers, you think hackers are smart. Imagine AI. AI already mathematically is much better than humans.
Imagine quantum cryptography combined with artificial intelligence. Every website you've ever been on, every password you've ever had, it will crack it like this. And we're gonna find out about people who are dead or some people who are alive. Every single secret they ever had is going to come out in the future. Just imagine everything that's been in the internet from like 1992 to now is going to be totally exposed in the future. I'll just say it right now, like I've done some crazy shit. I'll admit it today so that they don't expose me in the future. But I'm telling you, man.
Yeah, but AI, here's where the AI wars. One of you is going to start a reputation management company that if Michael's like, oh, I don't like this video of me, it's going to be, you just say, clean my reputation, and it's gonna go and hack and take down white people's databases. It's gonna be insane. There's already reputation. If you're a billionaire, you can already hire PR. I can tell you, I know a company in Israel that billionaires use. You pay them money, they will take anything down. I can't even tell off camera. I'll tell you off camera what they do. But there's ruthless methodology. So imagine so AI is going to be a war. If somebody doesn't like you, Michael, they're going to deploy AI to move all the bad stuff about you to the top of an algorithm. Then you're going to have to fight. It's going to be like modern war. You're going to be deploying an AI to go counteract that AI before it kicks in. It's going to be crazy. I mean, they're going to be AI assassins too. I'm talking murdering people. Think about this. You hate somebody. A lot of people take out hits at people around the world and America. I was just in Brazil. You be careful who you're mean to. Somebody take you out if they got $200 in their pocket. But they're gonna be these, you already see this robots coming out that can do backflips and stuff. What's gonna stop a hitman? Right now, they put a drone with a teeny bit of explosive into it. it flies next to your head and just kills you, doesn't kill anybody else. That's already there. That's why all these military things, how are you gonna protect the President of the United States? What's the Secret Service guys gonna do? They have drones that look like insects and birds. So a bird's gonna come and it'll have a little teeny piece of explosive. So
Turns out birds are fake after all. You remember the birds are fake shit?
Is that a conspiracy?
Yeah, it's a conspiracy. Birds are all fake. They're all birds are CIA drones. Look it up. Somebody actually
I
believes
can tell you on a farm, I have chickens, which are birds. They're real.
Yeah.
They lay eggs.
Yes.
Or else there's a better chance we're in a simulation so that nothing's real than birds alone are not real.
Yeah. All right, so I want to leave them with a couple of things.
Yeah.
Number one, have a conversation with an AI model.
Yes.
I know what I'm saying sounds like the movie Her, right? It sounds crazy, but I'm telling you it's going to be life-changing once you see the capabilities. Because right now you guys are either thinking that we're exaggerating how powerful this is, or you're afraid of it. This is a zero risk thing that only has benefit. It's only upside. There is no downside. So learn this. This is one of the biggest things that I teach my clients. Remember guys, I'm a social circle coach and I teach my clients to use AI because it's so incredibly powerful. Yes. And the other thing is, I might even ask AI this question. What risks are you not willing to take? Like, are you too risk averse? Sometimes we get guys on a call when we get them on there and it's like, hey, I don't want to post this picture because I'm afraid of what my mom will think.
Right.
And I'm like, first off, your mom wouldn't care.
Right.
Like, you're arrogant to think anyone would care. And then you sit there and you live in a country where a man a porn star while his wife was pregnant, became president of the United States, and you're worried about...
America's the country you could take the most risks.
Yes, dude, you can stab your wife and his friend 56 times, and you get a podcast for fantasy football. Are you kidding me? OJ.
Oh, yeah.
You can sit there and transition from a man to a woman, run someone over, and then kill them and be named Woman of the Year 4 months later. There's no consequences. Like, the idea, like before when you're taking risks...
You better have money.
Yeah, you better have some good
throw
lawyers.
that out that part. You
Yes.
better, if you don't got 10 minutes... I actually know the backstory of O.J. Simpson from his lawyers. He owes them $28 million.
Yes, he owes them a lot of money.
paid.
That's crazy. But guys, what risk are you not willing to take? Are you like, again, Tai and I, how much self-help, how much coaching have you bought in your life? Other people's programs, what do you think?
The most I've ever paid for advisors, whether it's mentor or lawyer, in 1 year is $6 million.
$6 million in a year, guys.
More, actually.
We spend, at MOA, we spend hundreds of thousands on like advice from other people. Like, again, people are sitting there, you're paying all this money for college, and there's these people who are actually taking action every day who have the answers for you. Are you not willing to take the risk to learn from them? I see, like, again, guys, I still learn from Tai every day. I still learn from Dan Fleischman every day. I still learn from all kinds of people. I still learn from Brad Lee every day. Are you done learning? Or is there more? And learning, again, it's just like the AI thing. It requires no risk on your part. It's an arbitrage. Learning is arbitrage. AI is arbitrage. Right now it is. Learning is arbitrage.
Well, one thing I'll leave you as a final note, I was here at this conference, ClickFunnels, Russell Brunson, 6,000 people, and I was able to hear the end of Tony Robbins talk for 4 hours. The thing that struck with me in the hour I listened to, he said, I've never heard this very profound but simple thought. He said, life is the space between what you desire most and what you fear most, right? So if you want to control your destiny, you gotta, let's say maybe you have too much ambition or too little. Maybe you have too much fear, too little. That will define you. So those are two things, by the way, to ask ChatGPT or any of Perplexity. Say, hey, let me tell you about my personality. Here's the risks I've taken. Here's the fears I have. You know, you make an anonymous account. And then say, my life goal is to have this. Do I have too much fear, and how do I overcome the fears? Because some fears are rational and a lot of fears are irrational. Elon Musk said, what made him the richest man in the world is this statement. Somebody was asking him if he's afraid to fail and does he fear it. He said, failure is irrelevant unless it's catastrophic. So essentially the way you should think about your fears is this catastrophic? So if you live in the US and you start a business, or you give all your money to starting or trying something, you lose it all. Bankruptcy is not a big deal. The average self-made millionaire, according to the book, The Millionaire Next Door, has been bankrupt at least once. Isn't that crazy? Or had a venture go to zero. Okay, at least once. So in America, it used to be you were put in debtor's prison until you paid off. So here, I see people not starting a business, or they go, I'm like, the risk is not catastrophic. So one of the things you got to do is eliminate all the fears that you have that aren't catastrophic. Keep the catastrophic ones. I would consider catastrophic death, okay?
Yeah.
You making 100 million then going to zero, that feels catastrophic. But if you're broke, I remember when I was broke, I was like, I had no fear because I was like, I'm already don't have a place to live. So homeless sounds fine to me. That's the one good thing about having failed a lot. You get a different sense of fear. And those of you who've been through hell and back, you know, you've been through the ashes. I'm gonna tell you this. It's actually a superpower if you realize you're still fucking here. So just focus on things that can make you suicidal, avoid those. Things that can literally physically get, that's why I don't cave dive. I have friends that, Charlie Munger said, man, he had a friend who became a billionaire and always wanted to go whitewater rafting.
Yeah.
And Charlie Munger goes, I did the odds, I own an insurance company. You have a high probability, and he said, eventually that guy went every summer, after like the 9th summer, never came home. So avoid whitewater rafting if you make a billion. But everything else, walking up to people, people are like heartbroken that somebody breaks up with them, that they're not even married, they don't have kids. That's not that catastrophic. Catastrophic, I would say, would be doing something to make your kids hate you forever.
Yeah.
So avoid that. But like this guy that doesn't want to post a picture of his, let's say he's out with women because his mom will think bad of him. Odds are your mom will not disown you forever. So it's not catastrophic. So,
Odds are your mom doesn't even look at Instagram, dude.
Yeah.
That's actually odds. You're narcissistic to think anyone cares about what you post.
Or your mom goes, finally, he's
Finally,
gonna give me a granddaughter.
I thought he was a homosexual. I didn't know that my son even liked women.
The dad's like,
Fine.
thank God.
Thank God,
My
he's finally got a woman.
After him doing those ballet classes, I'm glad to see him at the club.
Again, guys, irrational fears. Going up and talking to strangers is an irrational fear.
Yes.
Read a ton of books. This is an arbitrage opportunity. It's only positive. There is no negative.
Yes.
Learning AI models, it's only positive. And getting mentors, finding people, finding mentorship that will help you is only a positive, not a negative. I've become friends with a lot of my mentors. It's been incredible for me. Like two of my favorite authors in the world, David Buss and Rollo Tomasi, are friends of mine now because I reached out, I took a chance.
Yes.
There was no risk, there was no downside, and in the end, I ended up winning because of it. So taking risk while becoming a subject matter expert, I think that's the ultimate lesson here.
Yeah. Good
Beautiful.
luck out there. Don't overthink it.
Don't overthink it. All right, guys, we'll see you all in the next video.
So DM me on Instagram, my @Tai Lopez verified. Just DM me the word Sartain, so I know you came from Michael. I'll send you a video that I don't have released, a private video, just a little bit more on this subject. So DM me on Instagram, @Tai Lopez, the word Sartain. Me, my assistant, or AI will shoot you. I have a custom video just for this, kind of expanding on this.